Did you say the federal law requires the NCAA to permit biological men to play in women's sports?
No, I said there have been 5 cases in federal court in the past 18 months. And
okay, because I thought you told him that
federal judges sided with participation.
The reason the NCAA couldn't take a position on this, in fact, you have taken a position on it. You're affirmatively permitting biological men in women's sports. But you said to him it's because of federal law. There's no federal law that requires it, right? The relevant federal law is Title IX, is it not? You're familiar with Title IX.
If guidance on this issue from Title IX or guidance with respect to discrimination law would be
Title IX is already the law. Title IX says
federal judges have ruled on
20 U.S.C. Section 1681A. By the way, let's just dispense with that canard. No federal court has ordered the NCAA to include biological men in women's sports, right?
Actually,
there's not a single case that has ordered the NCAA to do so, correct?
That's pretty much what they decided in the San
No, don't
Jose
say pretty
case.
much. We're talking.
Before we go any further, y'all, this is Senator Josh Hawley from the great state of Missouri, which is fast becoming my favorite senator. And these days, I don't really have favorite politicians like most people don't. But this guy here, I mean, he's going at them. Every time you see him, he is going at the establishment, the status quo. All of these people who basically are taking advantage of the American people with all of this crazy woke crap and all of that. Obviously, he's a Republican, but right now he's grilling the president of the NCAA over their transgender policies, allowing men and women's sports to compete in women's sports, and also allowing men into women's locker rooms and bathrooms. And so this thing gets real heated, and we see Senator Hawley going in on this guy, and we're going to react to it. But before we go any further, I would kindly ask you guys to smash that like button. It helps us get our content out to more people, and it also helps us to continue to grow our community. Let's get into it.
About the law here.
Yes,
and
I know.
And you actively dissembled to Senator Kennedy just a second ago. It's not true that the NCAA has been ordered by any court, number one. It's not true that federal law requires you to include biological males. In fact, Title IX explicitly says no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be denied the benefits of any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. You are in court at this moment arguing that Title IX doesn't apply to the NCAA, which is astounding to me, given the amount of money, federal money, the NCAA gets. But let me just ask you this.
Senator,
a total of 5 teams, 5 women's volleyball teams, Wyoming,
Listen
Southern
to this.
Utah, Utah State, Nevada, and Boise State all had to forfeit 7 games in their conference play, NCAA conference play this past year, women's teams, because a biological male, under your rules, was playing on a rival's team. How is that not denying them the benefits of the sport? Why is this fair to women?
Why is it fair to women, and how is it protecting women? How is it making things better if they end up having to forfeit games because of transgender biological males participating in their sport? How does that make it better? How are we protecting women? How are we making sure that women are comfortable, that they receive the accolades, that they're able to play hard and actually not have to forfeit their games by allowing these transgender men or whatever I'm so confused about what the hell to call them, so excuse me. Biological males, let's just say that.
And when that issue went to federal court, the judge sided with participation.
No, the NCAA did not go to court.
No,
that is not true.
The federal judge made the decision with respect to the issue you just raised.
Your rules have not been tried in federal court, and your rules explicitly permit biological males in women's sports. And I am asking you, why is that fair to the women? All of these women on these teams had to forfeit games and therefore a chance to compete in the championship because of your rules. And I want to know, why is that protective of women? That's my
More
question.
woke bullshit.
So far, the federal government on the court side has issued decisions several times.
No, I'm not asking
in
you
the last
about the
year.
courts. I know what the courts have done. Not one of them
that's
has
their
ordered the
interpretation
NCAA.
of federal law.
This is your policy, which you will not defend because, frankly, it's indefensible. Why are you, Mr.
The thing about it is, as you can see, he continues to circumvent the question by talking about federal law and what happened in certain court cases, instead of focusing on the policy that is written by the NCAA that he oversees.
Baker? Why are you allowing biological men to play in women's sports?
Because we believe that's consistent with federal policy.
So we're right back to your your testimony is you believe you're compelled to do it by federal law. You would change it otherwise?
We believe our policy. I said in my opening comments to Senator Kennedy, the clarity on this issue at the federal level would be very helpful.
Oh, that is such a cop-out. In other words, somebody else please do it for us. Keep sending us the money. We'll go to court and argue that Title IX doesn't even apply to us.
We do not take a dime in federal money. Not a
Is
dime.
that what you're
acting like
arguing
Kamala
Title IX
Harris?
doesn't?
No, yes, part of it, yes.
You honestly think you shouldn't be subject to Title IX?
We don't believe we currently are. In federal court has
amazing.
Federal court has affirmed that on a
Absolutely
number of
amazing.
circumstances.
You have a pending lawsuit right now from female athletes who are suing you because you allow biological men not only in their sports but also in their locker rooms. Why do you do that, by the way? Why do your guidelines allow biological men into women's locker rooms without the women's consent, without the women's foreknowledge? Why do you do that?
That's not what our guidelines say.
They do say that. I've got them right here. Your guidelines say
Listen.
that transgender student athletes should be able to use the locker room, shower, and toilet facilities in accordance with their gender identity.
And
Here they are.
Basically, and I love the way he used their policy and said, well, I'm going to look. You see how he sat up there and lied? And the man got their policy. And in their policy, it says that they are able to use the washroom that they identify for whatever sex or gender they identify as, instead of it saying the gender that they were born with, which would be a male. And so this is one of my main issues that made me vote the way that I did this election cycle. Obviously, I voted for Donald Trump. I voted Republican, basically, all the way down the ticket. Big fan of Donald Trump, huge fan. And he wants to ban these men in women's sports. And you know what? We always hear the left, these progressive, these so-called woke people, always talking about protecting women. But how in the hell are you protecting women when you're allowing men into their private spaces, like bathrooms and shower rooms, and then women can't do anything about it? He basically says, as we go a little bit further in this video, that they basically need to just, if the women have a problem with, they basically need to just find another washroom. So they always talking about this patriarchal bullshit and men being above women, and we need to stop that. But at the same time, they're allowing a man into women's spaces that's supposed to be private and basically being hypocritical because you're basically putting men over women. That's all a man has to do, is just put on a dress and decide to say that he's a woman, and he gets preferential treatment as it relates to sports and bathrooms and shower rooms. And then we disrespect the women by telling them, well, if it makes you uncomfortable, go find another washroom. How? Where do they do that at? Obviously, they do that in women's sports, the NCAA. And we need to go at this. I have daughters. I don't want men competing in sports with my daughters. We found out earlier this year that these biological males had taken away, basically, because obviously, you know, they're stronger, they're faster because they're men, have taken away 900 medals from women since they've been allowed to compete in these sports with them. That's terrible. That's disrespectful to women, and it's not protecting women. And it's just insane to me how the left, Democrats, allow this to go on when they're always screaming, protect women. It's pure and utter bullshit, man. And you know what? I don't understand how we could be God-fearing, self-respecting men and men who respect women and allow a man to go in a washroom and use a stall where my daughter is at, or use a shower stall on the side of my daughter and watch my daughter walk around in a towel or something, that's crazy. As a man, I don't want a woman walking around a men's bathroom. So why in the hell would I want to allow men who call themselves women, and they're going to be, and I don't want to go on too far, I want to finish this up. They're going to be all type of men in the future you're going to see who are going to use this. If this continues allowed to continue to use this to their advantage. And that's just sick and sad. But let's continue.
Right here.
And then everybody else should have an opportunity to use other facilities if they wish to do so.
Okay, so the burden's on the women. So
See?
if the women then want to move to a different facility, in other words, if they want to abandon their own locker room, you're saying that they should have to do that? So in other words, it's their problem?
No,
That's the deal?
we put a significant amount of emphasis on what the locals' plans are, and we make sure that everybody.
What does that mean, the locals' plans?
Whoever it is that's hosting the event.
You have guidelines that instruct them what the best practices are, and your guidelines say that biological men can go in and use the women's locker rooms if they want to. What the women want has nothing to do with it. They're not mentioned in here at all. Correct? Correct. It's right here. You just reaffirmed.
So basically, to hell with women. The people that scream protect women, they want to protect women's rights. They want to stand up for women, are saying to hell with women. And they're making it seem as if they're protecting everyone, and they're not. It's just sick as hell to me. And before I go, let me say this, because I'm a God-fearing man. I believe in God's, laws, his commandments. But I believe in human rights, and I believe in respecting people and allowing people to live their life as they choose and deal with the consequences of, with God or whatever they believe in, how they want to. That ain't got nothing to do with me. I respect people, but what you're not going to do is you're not going to impose your lifestyle on me, and you're not going to impose your lifestyle in such a way that it affects me, my family, my daughters in a negative light, in a negative way. That's wrong, because I'm not bothering you, and so don't do things to bother me, and then we could peacefully coexist. It's just that simple.
This year, I've got them. I'm reading them.
No,
I've got them off your website.
I believe our guidelines give people optionality with respect to how they choose to use their facilities. And many,
What does that
many,
mean? Optionality. What it says is transgender student athletes will be able to use the locker room, shower, and toilet in accordance with their gender identity. That means men will be able to use the women's locker rooms. And as Riley Gaines and others have testified before this committee, that means if a man, a biological man, wants to use their locker room, they just have to accept it. Or else the women have to go somewhere else. They've got to go find an alternative. Why is that fair?
We told the local folks who've hosted our tournaments.
First of all, I'm gonna say this: like, this guy is a joke to me, for real, to be honest with you. Because who sits up in a hearing in Congress with their hand on their head like this? As the president, he doesn't even take this serious at all, to be honest with you. How do you sit here as the president of the NCAA in front of Congress and with your damn head on your hand with this dumb grin on your face? It's just irritating to me, y'all.
Need to create accommodations for the people who are playing.
So it's the feds on the one hand, it's the locals on the other hand. The only person who doesn't seem to bear any responsibility in this is you and the NCAA, who are the governing body. And your testimony here today is you're not even subject to Title IX. Mr. Baker, I can't tell you how disappointed this makes me, but not just disappointed, frankly, infuriated for the student athletes who are suffering because of your policies, and you won't even defend them. You won't even take responsibility.
Okay, family. So look, I think we pretty much covered my feelings based upon, or I think we've covered my feelings. How I feel about this whole transgender issue. I respect transgender people. I don't believe that they should be competing in sports. like the majority of Americans believe, men and women. I don't believe, I really, really don't believe that they should be able to use the same washrooms, the same locker rooms, shower rooms, facilities that are supposed to provide privacy from the opposite sex. And that's the reason why we have men's and women's bathrooms. So why would you break something that is humanity's way? It's the respectful thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Allow women to have their washrooms and shower rooms, and we'll do the same for men. But I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Please comment your thoughts below. And if you want to support this channel, listen, the best way that you can support this channel is by commenting your thoughts below, liking and sharing with other people. If you're not a part of our family, the Young Black and Wealthy family, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our community. Thank y'all. Love y'all. Don't forget to get a family a hug from me. See y'all in the next video.